thought today I could talk about the inner critic. And it's something I've talked about before, but I just thought it would be a good point to hit because I've noticed I've spent time with people who've been critical. I've noticed a little bit of an inner critic within me too. And when we're experiencing criticalness, when we're experiencing our inner critic, why does that pattern show up? And I would say the inner critic is an expression of our control patterns. And we're taught that if we're all just normal, if we're all act the same way and follow the path society gives us, then we'll be safe. And if we're do things that are not normal or not accepted by society, we could get hurt, we could be attacked, which is true. Like people that are transgender regularly receive hate. People that go against the norm of what's like accepted in society regularly do face criticism. People that cross-dress, people that not to just use people that maybe like dance in the street, someone, or try and I try and pet like every dog I walk past, and sometimes it's rare, but every now and then an owner will go, "What are you doing? Stop doing that." And that's their control pattern saying, "You're not acting normal, and I'm going to try and put you down as a way of helping keep you in line." And that's what our inner critic does. is it tries to make us feel worse about ourselves, tries to critique us to make us feel more unworthy, more like we're not enough, as a way of making us easier to control and manipulate. And it's why it's one of the reasons why as children are incredibly expressive. They don't hide their emotions. They just express what they need to express in the moment, whether that's crying or laughing or playing or being joyous. But as adults, we tend to grow out of that. And we're taught that the less we express, the safer we are, because we're all, at least for me, and I think it's true for a lot of people, we're afraid of being too much for people. We're afraid of oversharing and then getting rejected or pushed away. And so we end up undersharing and expressing less, but really we're taught to express less because the people that have agendas on the planet, the people that are trying to control and manipulate, the people like hundreds of thousands of people or herd people towards their agenda, it's a lot harder to herd the cattle when the cattle are fighting back or speaking up. And so we're taught not to fight back or speak up, or we're put down by the inner critic that we're taught to have about ourselves, or put down by the inner critic of others to try and keep us in line so we're easier to control, easier to manipulate. And it's where being critical comes from. Is at one level we think if I stay normal, if I just am stay in the range that's accepted by majority of society, then people won't hurt me, people won't attack me. But on another level, it's if even in our control patterns understand this, is if I can make this person feel worse about themselves, they'll listen to what I'm trying to get them to do. They will be easier to control, they'll be easier to manipulate. And a lot of times our parents kind of unconsciously teach us this, no fault on their own, because it's what they were taught as well. And just to go back to the transgender and cross-dressing thing as an example, like by no means do I think that those people should be people that should be receive criticism or is not normal, because we're all meant to express ourselves exactly how we are. And if we feel like we're in a different type of body or want to wear feminine clothes, by all means, wear feminine clothes, be in a different body. And it's actually helping you wake up from your control patterns of thinking you need to fit yourself into a box. We're all incredibly unique. We're all completely different balances of masculine and feminine energy. We all have different interests. Some men will desire to dress themselves more feminine. Some men will desire to dress themselves more masculine. And that's just your unique expression of life. And there's nothing wrong with that, with whatever you choose. And you are helping people find greater freedom by expressing yourself as you are, rather than trying to stay in normal or stay as what society wants you to be, which is like, if you're a guy, I don't know, having short hair, wearing wearing maybe like collared shirts or blue jeans, khakis. But be who you are, because the more you can be yourself, the more, if you're like, I want to wear lipstick and I'm a guy, wear lipstick, because you are only going to find more freedom to do the things you actually want to do if you can make the little changes in your life to be more expressive of what feels true, unique to you, or what you would like to explore. And the more you make choices that might be a little bit different from the norm, but it's just you expressing yourself freely, the more free you're going to be, the more authentic you'll be yourself, and the less control patterns you will have running in your subconscious mind, because control patterns only exist for how long we feed them, and we feed them by listening to our inner critic. And to some degree, we're all going to have we're all waking up out of our own inner critics, and sometimes we're probably going to listen to it, and sometimes we'll do a little better and won't listen to it. And it's okay, however you're choosing. It's okay, whatever you're afraid to choose, that would be a more free, authentic expression of yourselves. We all are on a journey of time, and time will always get us to where we're meant to go, as long as we're willing to keep on trying to be more and more freely, authentically ourselves. And something I've noticed in myself when I've experienced critique patterns lately, like lately I was watching someone who was channeling light language and doing a bunch of cool symbols with their hands, but I found the first time that I watched it that I was being a little critical of it and going like, is this even real, even though I can feel like the changes and shifts in my body as I'm watching them do it. And we learn that oftentimes we're critical of things that are rather foreign to us, that we haven't experienced a lot, or we're critical of things that we didn't exactly go their way. And this comes up for me when I make YouTube videos as well, because while I come into these YouTube videos with an idea, which gives my video direction. So today it was inner critic, and I do practice a little just so I know I have something to talk about or explain as I do the video, like as I go into it, but I am channeling. So I also allow for like spontaneity. And a lot of times, when I do the videos, I end up talking about like subtly different things or completely different things than what I had practiced or planned going into making the video. And a lot of times my inner critic will come up and be like, that's not a good video. You didn't really hit the points you planned on talking about. You stumbled on a word or two. I don't think you should post it. And I will then not watch I will usually then post it anyways. And then like a couple of days later, I'll rewatch the video and I go, oh, it was fine. And the things that were highlighted to me as wrong were just different things that I talked about that I wasn't planning on talking about. And it's another way the control patterns that are still being healed out of me are coming up. Because when I'm teaching, it's not always, when I'm channeling and teaching, it's not always what I expect. But when I practice, and the practice just helps me make sure I can explain at least something to start the video out. And then I create space for whatever else wants to be shared. And so when we're feeling our inner critic, it's something that's either really foreign to us or it's not going the way we wanted it to go. And so if we're finding ourselves being critical of ourselves or someone else, it's not a voice we necessarily need to listen to, but it's a voice saying this is either really foreign to choices you typically make, words you typically say, or this is not going how you expected it to go. And that's what oftentimes our control patterns go. We need to rein this in. Let's turn on the inner critic and keep them in their box, keep them in their prison of normal, because we're taught normal is safe, when really normal is actually just the most hurtable people that won't fight back as people in power try and push their agendas onto us. And the more we can freely express ourselves and go, what would be not normal, and can I do a little bit more of that, the more we are. And obviously, please make sure this is a healthy choice too. Don't go, it's a counterculture to use cocaine, so that's not normal, I'm gonna use that. Absolutely, please don't do that. But like things like, for me, for an example, would be like over the summer, like at the beginning of summer, I didn't really have a lot of friends. I didn't really have a lot of people I could talk to. And one of the things I was contemplating during that time is, like, as I was walking on the beach, as I was in the grocery store, and lately, like, it's, even though I have a little bit more of a social circle, like talking to people in the elevator, can I just start conversations with people when I'm feeling maybe a little bit more alone, or when I would like to, just as a way of feeling connected more to those around me and helping me with the loneliness or aloneness I was feeling at the beginning of summer. But it's still like a nice practice to have, just to feel more connected to those around us. And I would go, can I just go up and talk to people, even when it's not a socially acceptable place to go up and talk to someone? And when I would go to try and do that, I would hear, that's weird, don't do that, maybe you're going to embarrass yourself. And sometimes I would listen to that voice, and sometimes I would just go and do it. And the times I did it, I found majority of the time I ended up having really nice conversations with people. I ended up feeling less alone, and I had a different experience than I would have, and I felt more connected to another person than if I had listened to the voice of, that's weird, don't do that. Or another example of this is, like, a couple years ago, like, I would walk on the beach a lot. Like, this was like during COVID, and there was often trash, and I would go, can I just like pick up some of this trash, because I don't like walking on a beach that has this litter all over it. And the first couple of times there was a lot of resistance, and I just kept on doing it every day when I would walk on the beach in the morning, and slowly the resistance went away, and the beach was a lot cleaner because of me, and it actually became something I was quite proud of that I did. And so when we're trying to make different choices than we typically make, we're often going to hear our inner critic, or a part of us that goes, that's weird, don't do that, as a way of trying to keep us in a box of the choices we typically make, or a way of trying to keep us safe by being normal. And if we allow ourselves to be to ignore that voice, or to love that voice, and then continue to make the choice we were considering that was healthy for either us or for the beach or whatever, we're going to find ourselves being more freely and authentically ourselves, and more free to just be what we want to be in a moment, rather than what society tells us we need to be, or rather than what our mind tells us is going to be safe. Like, oh, you can't pick up that trash, there's going to be germs on it. That's like something I heard when I was walking the beach, and I never got sick. I would do it every day, never ended up getting sick at all. So oftentimes the voice in our head is something to love, not something to listen to. And if it feels like it's trying to stop us from making a choice that would feel like a more free or authentic choice of ourselves, expression of ourselves, can we hear the choice but continue to move in the direction we want to move? And sometimes maybe the fear overwhelms us, and that's okay. It's not something to put ourselves down about. But are we willing to try again till we can overcome that fear? Because as we try again, and as we allow ourselves to make choices different than maybe the people around us, or choices that feel a little different than how we usually choose, we're going to find more freedom and authenticity. And in freedom and authenticity, we find ourselves being able to express what we need to express, speak up when we need to speak up, rather than when it's acceptable to express ourselves or acceptable to speak up. But it's actually usually when you're willing to express yourself when the moment calls for it, or speak up for yourself when the moment calls for it, you'll always end up meeting the moment how the moment needs to be met, rather than being controlled or manipulated by the moment that society's trying to push on us. And I think like vulnerability, being freely ourselves, is truly like one of our greatest superpowers. And it's one of the ways, as we allow ourselves to be more free, we help those around us remember the freedom they can be. And we slowly help all become more and more free on the planet, just by our willingness to choose a little differently, or to not listen to the voice that says, that's weird, don't say that, that's too loving, that's too kind of you to say. And as we allow ourselves to do that, we're only going to find more and more of our inner power reawakened to be exactly as ourselves, because real power is being exactly who I am, not who the world or my community tells me I need to be. And another example of my life that kind of hits on this is like, oftentimes we're most afraid of the choices that are the most foreign to us. And for me, for a long time, I was really scared of public speaking. And now I'm someone who does open mics just about every week or every other week. And the first time I went to do an open mic, I got there and I went, I'm not going to do it. I'm not getting up there, and I'm not going to go talk about spirituality and mental health. And I just ended up, the first time I ended up forcing myself, and I got up, they called my name, I put my feet in front of there, and I just went up and talked for a little bit. And there was no part of me that wanted to do it, but I knew it was a healthy choice. I knew it would be following my passion, and I knew it was the right direction. And so I did it anyways. And so if we're thinking about choices that might be a little bit scary, that might terrify us a little bit, but we know it's something that's in line with our passion, or would be healthy for us, or is in the right direction of who we want to become or what we want to do, can we be willing to grit our teeth a little bit, maybe the first time, and face our fear? Because fear isn't telling you something you shouldn't do. It's just telling you, hey, this is something that's foreign, and that and it's something that you haven't chose in the past.